Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Video 101. Let's get after it.
Every time you saw Taylor Swift on your TV at the Super Bowl, you were flashed with demonic hand gestures and an inverted cross. Because right next to her was this woman, Ice Spicy. The second she notices she's on TV, she does her hand gestures and shows her cross. I mean, you don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist for this one. Her friends are drinking, doing whatever, watching the game, and she does this. It just looks so forced. And for those of you saying it's not an upside down cross, Playboy Cardi literally posted it on his story, and in up close videos and photos of her, you can see she's clearly rocking it. After the Chiefs won, the President of the United States posted this on his Instagram saying, "Just like we drew it up in these red eyes." Kanye West was at the game wearing all black with a black mask with Jesus Christ in between his eyes. This is the biggest stage in the world. Everything on your TV is there for a reason, and we haven't even got to the commercials or the halftime show yet. They can continue to show us this imagery and try and normalize it, but I can promise you one thing: I will never stop exposing what is going on in this world.
It's one thing to have all these concerts and stuff with all this satanic imagery and stuff like that, because I do think that some of those artists that do that stuff are just trying to be edgy and they think that it makes them look cool. But I don't think that all of them are doing it for that reason. I mean, you look at people that are walking around outside of their music videos and their concerts and stuff when they're just out in regular, everyday, walking around, living their life, and they're still wearing all this satanic stuff. It is starting to seem like the entire music industry has been taken over by some sort of satanic group or cult. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, I make a new one just like it every single day. It'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
Here is more ancient, unexplained artifacts that we have found somewhere in our history. In Germany, in the mountains in 1999, two men were using illegal metal detectors on a sacred mound that had things buried there since 1600 BC. The men found 2 axes, 2 swords, a chisel, some body armor, and they also found something called the Nebra Sky Disc. They know for sure that this was buried in the 1600s. However, the dozens of scientists and archaeologists that have studied this disc, no one can explain exactly the time period that it was actually made. It was buried in a mound on the highest point of a mountain where the solstice would directly line up with the disc itself. The burial site had other things including human remains, but the sky disc was definitely the oldest. It was mostly copper inlaid with actual gold found in Europe in the mountains and rivers. And it showed constellations, it showed the moon, the sun, and on the bottom right here, they think it was actually either the Milky Way or an arc that they were trying to depict. Others think that this was a map for aliens. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. As usual, there are no part 2, so leave me a follow, like, and comment.
Just the fact that he said that this was supposedly buried around the 1600s, that was a pretty well documented point in history. For that reason, I think it would be fairly easy to probably figure out where these things came from, or at least get a good general idea of who buried them there. This is probably not the only one of these. They probably made a couple of these things in preparation for this final disc that they intended to bury for whatever reason. Who knows? If I come across anything else on here showing any more information about that, I'll absolutely put it on here and let you guys know.
The Vatican archives. In the 1920s, there's a Russian professor. His name was Gingrich Ludwig. He was able to have access to the archives. 12 centuries of European history. He walked up on this one section, which was ancient books about aliens, and he came across the craziest stuff. These books talked about how these star people coming down in crafts taught all the ancient civilizations how to build the pyramids and taught the Mayans things and like all this crazy stuff. And then, this is what I thought was the craziest part, but he writes down that these things had these weapons, and I guess they used it once on Babylon, and said that this weapon that these things possess melted the walls of Babylon with the amount of energy and heat that they produce. And today we're like, those are nuclear weapons. And I'm just like, why are they hiding this stuff?
It's hard for me to hear something like that and think that there's any validity to it, because it's just some guy claiming that he read a book in the Vatican secret library. But I do think that if we were given access to the Vatican library, there would be a ton of stuff like this in there. So for that reason, I'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt. But as to the question that they proposed of why are they hiding this stuff from us, they want control, man. Control the information, control the people. Simple as that.
A short documentary about space exploration.
Ever wondered why space remains a vast, uncharted mystery? Or why rocket science seems to defy the laws of physics? Some believe it's because space and NASA are nothing but elaborate hoaxes. Let's debunk these myths, one by one. Starting with the notion that all satellite images are computer-generated. Unfortunately, they are. Satellites are not falling to Earth and misses Earth continuously like NASA claims it does. They are instead hung up by helium balloons. The truth is, rockets do indeed propel themselves by expelling mass. However, this thrust requires a medium to push against. In space, where there is no atmosphere, traditional rocket propulsion faces therefore challenges. But according to the principles of general and special relativity, thrust should not function in a vacuum. So how do rockets move in space? NASA claims it uses the conservation of momentum, an inherent property of the universe that is based on only theories, unfortunately. When a rocket expels mass, it propels forward even in the vacuum of space is what NASA would say. But in reality, it contradicts itself. Gaining momentum from stacking potential energy to kinetic energy in a vacuum is just theoretical physics. According to the equation E equals sine 1/2 m0 mu2, rockets shouldn't work in the medium of space vacuum. Next, consider the claim that we've never reached beyond low Earth orbit even until this very moment. Despite overall advancements in space technology, it still remains a challenge for all space agencies. But NASA engineers say it's not because it's impossible. It's instead due to the immense amount of energy required to break free from Earth's gravitational pull, and due to the deadly radiation that exists beyond low Earth orbit. But how did NASA even do it over 50 years ago? Some skeptics also point to the lack of Nobel Prizes for space travel techniques as evidence of the conspiracy that no one has ever left Earth. But here's the truth. The Nobel Prize often recognizes theoretical advancements, not necessarily technological ones, but isn't space travel both theoretical and technological achievements? I personally think it is. So, before dismissing these theories, take a moment to truly understand the theoretical science behind space exploration. The mysteries of the universe don't unravel easily. They require curiosity, patience, and funding, a lot of it, and a fundamental understanding of the laws that govern our world, which may even be to just deceive you. In summary, space and NASA are not hoaxes, they are deceivers. Rockets can move in space, but only in the minds of the believers. We've reached beyond low Earth orbit many times before, but also only in the minds of the believers. In 2024, even with NASA's arsenal of supercomputers, AI, AGI, quantum computers, and the brightest minds of this realm, they still can't break free from low Earth orbit. And they openly admits that.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go.
It makes you wonder if the moon landing was just a big hoax. Unless, of course, you're educated enough to understand the idea that the Earth may be flat, or even just a small part of a bigger planet, where the United Nations and the Antarctic Treaty is gatekeeping the borders, and that everyone inside UN are just enslaved in a modern way to be farmed for manpower to the elites outside UN. But that is a tantalizing truth-seeker story for another time. Anyway, the lack of Nobel Prizes for space exploration techniques doesn't discredit the field. It's just a reflection of the delusional optimism from NASA and their cult following. So remember, kids, the universe is full of mysteries waiting to never be uncovered by NASA. So start to think about to jump that ice wall and finding a better life there. So keep questioning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep seeking the truth. Until next time, stay curious.
I put that in here because I thought it was a very well put together miniature documentary about the many lies of space exploration. But I don't think the Earth is flat. I do think that we're being lied to by NASA about what they're capable of, what they were capable of in the past, what they're actually doing on a daily basis. I don't believe any of it. I think it's all lies. I think it's just a big money laundering operation where they're siphoning off U.S. tax dollars.
The Super Bowl this year was a massive ritual to Saturn using alchemical symbolism for you-know-who, the devil. Alicia Keys came out as the Scarlet Woman dressed in all red. The purpose is to manifest the energies of the new Aeon of Horus, which is why Usher was wearing only the left glove, the left hand pass. Usher used the symbolism of alchemy to show us turning lead into gold, or the transmutation of the soul, when he came out on the black stage. Then he was dressed in white, and he ended up on the stage of fire, all while wearing a phoenix pin. We got opposing polarity symbolism of the checkerboard of Freemasonry, and even the big one, a stage used to show Usher as the sun on the zodiac cross, a pagan religious belief, and the symbol was two opposing planets with the sun between them. If you look up today's astrology, guess what planets are in opposition with the sun between them? The Earth and Saturn. That's why Ice Spice and Taylor Swift use Saturn symbolism in their Karma video, and Usher was standing on a giant clock, aka Kronos or Saturn, the religion of the occultists. There's way more than I have time for in this video, from Usher's Baphomet symbols, to the rigged game for the Chiefs, and the aliens, and Beyonce's AI symbolism, and so on. Check out my show and just wake up already.
You know, seeing just how prevalent all this symbolism and stuff is in these shows, it makes me wonder who is putting all this stuff together. Because you know these artists aren't sitting at home reading books of the occult and trying to incorporate all this symbolism into their shows. Somebody who is an authority figure to them is setting all this stuff up, and they're just going along with it. Not saying that they're not at fault. They're absolutely cool and kosher with everything that's happening, or they wouldn't be doing it. But there's somebody's behind all this symbolism and stuff. Somebody that understands what they're doing and wants to put this stuff in front of a bunch of eyes. So it'd be interesting to find out, is it one individual or one small group that puts all these things together? Like, are the Lana Del Rey concerts and the Taylor Swift concerts that show all this witchcraft and stuff, are they being put together by the same people? Be interesting to find out.
Eclipse is formed when the Earth is between the Sun and the Moon, is what they tell us. The Earth then casts a shadow on the Moon, thus causing the eclipse. But this explanation has already been refuted by Frederick Henry Cook. In his book, The Terrestrial Plane, he writes, according to the new theory, the false one, a lunar eclipse occurs when the Sun and Earth and Moon are in a straight line. But it's documented that since the 15th century, more than 50 eclipses have occurred while both the Sun and Moon were still visible above the horizon. In other words, the Sun and the Moon were visible at the same time in the sky while the Moon was eclipsed. And this is the kind of thing that just gave me goosebumps. While the Moon was eclipsed, for example, on July 19th of 1750, in Paris, observers saw an eclipsed moon while the sun was clearly seen in the sky above the horizon. The same thing happened in the eclipses of April 20th in 1837, September 20th of 1700, June 16th of 1666, November 3rd of 1648, and July 17th of 1590. Also, a recent documented event occurred August 16th of 1989 in Hawaii, where the partially eclipsed moon could be seen rising while the sun was still setting. That means the sun, the earth, and the moon were not aligned while the lunar eclipse occurred. So it's impossible that the eclipse was caused by the earth's shadow being projected onto the moon. Another thing they say is that the solar eclipse occurs when the moon stands between the earth and the sun, the moon covering the exact circumference of the sun. This already improbable scenario is refuted by recordings where it can be seen that it's not the moon covering the sun during an eclipse, but rather something else, and we're going to have a look at that. On March 20th of 2015, a total eclipse of the sun took place, and the Travel Quest International Company organized a flight of 50 people to observe this phenomenon from the North Atlantic, and this is where the subject gets interesting. Several passengers filmed the totality of the eclipse, and the recordings show black orbs without light around the sun. And one of these orbs was covering the sun at the moment of the eclipse. Total solar eclipse, March 20th, 2015. And here we can see a nice view through the window. And this is what I wanted to see. Something real. And something nice and up there, not from our perspective. And here we go, boom, now they come into view. The orbs that I've spoken about seeing, orbs that can actually move independently, but otherwise move as fixed stars. And I told you of the one that flew over my head and then just parked in its position and just appeared to be a star. And of course we have things we are told that orbit in opposition. And here's an example. Here's 4 of them moving in opposition. And what I find fascinating is, if this is true, which I believe it is, it seems a lot more plausible than anything I've ever heard on the subject. That means that the stars, or at least some of them, may actually move in front of the sun. And it's certainly the case here with these 4+ orbs. And here we can see it passing, and now we see the eclipse. And we still see the 3 underneath it. Absolutely amazing. And again, this was a group of photographers. It's not just one photographer. And here he helps highlight this, really showing you a lot of the points that many people might want to refute, such as the smudges on the window. And then he highlights these orbs so we can clearly see the way they move.
I think this guy is trying to say that the sun and the moon are local, and some of the stars are as well, and they're moving around in front of the sun, which sounds absolutely insane. Never heard that theory before, that the stars move around. You can clearly look up at the night sky and see that the stars are always in the same position, so that theory doesn't make any sense to me.
There's 33 vertebrae in your spine. There's 33 years in the life of Jesus Christ. Substance that comes from your medulla, which looks like the Ark of the Covenant, has angel's wings around it, the whole thing. Trip down your spine to your sacrum, which is Christ coming down into human form. Yeah. And if you don't squander that essence, that sexual essence, it ascends again and goes back up to heaven, which is your thing. It's also the story of Santa Claus. Why he comes down the chimney is because this juice or this substance actually passes what's called the claustrum, which is where they got Santa Claus. So it goes down the chimney.
How do you not love Jim Carrey? What Jim's touching on there is that the process of a Kundalini awakening is actually exemplified in the life of Jesus. Living 33 years, having 33 vertebrae that the Kundalini energy travels upwards towards as it ascends to the crown chakra, which represents the kingdom of heaven, or being crowned with God consciousness. This process only happens by crucifying the false nature, the egoic self, and resurrecting to the divine self. This is why the early Gnostic Christians called Kundalini the Christ oil, because when this secretion or fluid reaches the crown chakra, you have ascended to the Christ nature and become one with the Father, just as Jesus did.
You learn something new every day. I've heard very, very, very little, but I have heard of this substance that goes down your spine and then rises back up once a month. There is a fellow that posts TikToks about this book called The Book of Knowledge, but it costs $50. I've almost bought it now like 7 or 8 times, but it's supposed to explain this stuff in great detail, this specific type of stuff here. So I'm probably going to end up going ahead and buying the book, because it's just driving me nuts not having a good source of information to figure out what all this stuff is and what it means. And that book looks like it'd be a good breakdown. So once I get it, I will post photos and stuff of what I find to be the most interesting parts of it in the Discord so that I can share it with you guys. But that's the end of this video here, but don't run off just yet. I've got a little housekeeping to do. First, I want to announce the winners of yesterday's contest. We had winner number 1, Glenn Gubby, number 2, Lopin Cakes, and number 3, Phoenix. I've already sent friend requests to all 3 of you. The guy who came in first place, Glenn Gubby, you have not responded to your friend request. I need you to answer that so you can tell me which prize you want. Next, I want to give a shout out to the Eggman. He did some fan art. Wasn't expecting to see that pop up in the Discord yesterday. Awesome hand drawing of yours truly. So I thought that was pretty cool. My wife even says it looks just like me, and she's one of those that's hard to please when it comes to stuff like that. So you did a fantastic job. Next, I want to thank Matt Hoff for my very first super chat. I just found out about super chats yesterday, turned that on, and about 2 hours later, got my first one, so thank you, Matt Hoff. Next, I want to announce that I actually have t-shirts coming. I've got 3 t-shirt designs and 2 hat designs that I'm working on currently. Those should be up within the month of February. I believe I'll have everything set up and have a full store and everything. So if you're interested in getting a shirt or a hat, I've got some cool designs coming. And lastly, I want to talk about episode 92. I know that we had discussed that we were going to get into a lot of Dolores Cannon stuff on the channel. Whoever runs her deal over there does not want anyone sharing her information. A 3-minute clip that I had in one of my videos, episode 92, resulted in a copyright strike and had my video removed. So no hard feelings on this end. Now I'm aware I cannot post any Dolores Cannon stuff. So unfortunately, any Dolores Cannon stuff, we're going to have to just talk about it after I finish reading her book. With all that housekeeping out of the way, guys, I hope you enjoyed the videos that we watched today, and I will be back tomorrow with another one like I always am. I hope you have a great, safe, fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow.